Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The Supreme Court ordered a lower court to reverse its decision and allow border wall construction to continue. The Biden administration is planning to end some sanctions on China to help his negotiations with the CCP on a new trade deal. And after running for the presidency on the Democratic ticket, Andrew Yang has quit the party. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday advised a lower court to reconsider its earlier decision. The decision blocked an estimated $3.6 billion from being used for construction on the U.S.-Mexico border wall that was championed by former President Donald Trump. President Joe Biden has tried to halt the funding since he took office in January. The Biden administration argued that the Supreme Court did not need to weigh in on the case concerning the border wall since the project was ended by the new administration. But the court's Monday ruling called for a reassessment of the case, given how the project is now being considered and with a different administration in the White House. The Supreme Court returned the case to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit with instructions to vacate its judgment. The decision comes against the backdrop of a heightened crisis of illegal migrants at the southern border. The U.S. Department of Defense said in April it was canceling border wall construction projects. 2 months later, the DoD redirected $2.2 billion of that funding to other projects. Although construction of the border wall has officially been halted for months, some proponents of the project have continued to push for other ways to tackle it. In June, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced plans to build a wall in his state, and by Monday, the state had raised more than $54 million to do so. The 2021 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine has been awarded to David Julius and Artem Pataputian for their discoveries of receptors for temperature and touch, which could pave the way for new painkillers. Their work carried out independently has helped show how humans convert the physical impact from heat or touch into nerve impulses that allow us to perceive and adapt to the world around us. The Nobel Assembly at Sweden's Karolinska Institute said. Pataputian was born in 1967 to Armenian parents in Lebanon. He is a professor at Scripps Research, La Jolla, California, having previously done research at the University of California, San Francisco, and California Institute of Technology, Pasadena. His scientific contribution is using pressure-sensitive sensor cells in the skin and internal organs that respond to mechanical stimulation to discover a novel class of sensors. New York-born Julius is a professor at the University of California, San Francisco, after earlier work at Columbia University in New York. His findings utilize capsaicin, the active component in chili peppers that induces a burning sensation, to identify the nerve sensors that allow the skin to respond to heat. Jan Adams, chief science officer at German drug maker Grünenthal, which markets pain relief skin patches and creams based on Julius' discovery, said his work had opened up a whole new field of research for new non-opioid pain therapies. Their findings have led to a rapid increase in scientists' understanding of how our nervous system senses heat, cold, and mechanical stimulation, identifying critical links that were missing in how our senses react to the environment around us. U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai delivered a speech on October 4th announcing 4 approaches to the Biden administration's trade policy with the Chinese Communist Party. She emphasized the need for the CCP to implement the first phase of the U.S. China trade agreement it promised. The United States also launched a new process to exclude certain products from U.S. tariffs. Tai spoke on Monday morning at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. I am committed to addressing the many challenges we face in this bilateral process to achieve a meaningful outcome, she said. But most importantly, we must defend our economic interests to the fullest extent. Tai focused on the Biden administration's approach to the U.S.-China trade relationship following months of internal review and deliberation on how to handle the CCP's behavior. She said the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative has taken 4 specific approaches to adjusting its trade policy with the CCP. First, reconsider and discuss with the CCP implementing the first phase of the U.S.-China trade agreement and emphasize that the CCP must comply with its signed commitments. Second, begin the targeted tariff exclusion process that is currently open, but does not exclude the possibility of adding additional processes in the future. Third, the the United States continues to express serious concerns about the CCP's state-centric and non-market trade practices, arguing that these CCP actions were not addressed in the Phase 1 agreement. And fourth, the United States will work with allies and like-minded partners to build an international trade system that is fair and allows for healthy competition. Tai emphasized that the CCP's unfair trade practices hurt American labor and industry. It has gained an advantage in global trade, and she pointed out that the current state of U.S. China trade relations are detrimental to American labor, businesses, farmers, and manufacturers. From the graph, we can see the U.S. China trade deficit has widened nearly tenfold since the CCP joined the WTO in 2001. Tai said the CCP has failed to reform its non-market policies or deliver on the promises it made in high-level conversations with U.S. officials over the past 15 years. Even with the first phase of the agreement in place, the CCP continues to pour billions of dollars in subsidies into established industries and continues to shape the economy to the will of the state, to the detriment of workers here in the United States and around the world, Tai said. Industrial subsidy policies were what the Trump administration set out to talk about at the time in the second phase of the trade deal, which focused on the purchase of U.S. goods. The first phase of the U.S. China trade deal is set to expire at the end of this year. Under its terms, the CCP pledged to significantly increase its purchases of U.S. soybeans and energy, among other products. Data shows China has failed to meet its commitment to purchase an additional $200 billion in U.S. goods. The Biden administration faces the question on how to address the CCP's failure to perform and whether to negotiate a successor agreement. Few know that in Article 7.6 of the agreement, in the event that a natural disaster or other unforeseeable event outside the control of the parties delays them from complying with their obligations, they shall consult with each other. As in the case of the pandemic, the CCP may have an out, forcing the Biden administration to negotiate a successor agreement. U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said on September 28th, in fact, the CCP has not met its commitments. It is preventing its domestic airlines from buying tens of billions of dollars of U.S.-made aircraft. While the Biden administration said it would not give up any tools in dealing with the CCP, a senior administration official stressed at a briefing on October 3rd, the U.S. does not intend to escalate trade tensions. The official acknowledged that the CCP may not change its approach, so the U.S. needs a strategy that takes that into account. And coming up, Andrew Yang leaves the Democratic Party, and the governor's race in Virginia is too close to call. But before we continue, if you like our program, please hit the like button and subscribe. It'll force the algorithm to share this video to potentially thousands of people. If you want to support Eye Opener, please consider donating to the show or purchasing a mug that matters. You can find the link in the description below, and your support, as always, is greatly appreciated. Salute. Andrew Yang published a blog post on his website on Monday, announcing he was leaving the Democratic Party to become an independent. He declared that he was been a staunch Democrat for the past 2 decades. When I was 29, I co-hosted a small fundraiser for John Kerry's campaign at a bar. I think we raised about $3,000. I was excited about Barack Obama's victory in 2008 and, to a lesser extent, his re-election in 2012, Yang said. In 2016, he donated to Bernie Sanders' campaign, but he voted for Hillary Clinton, and he felt that the election of President Trump was a red flag and a call to action. However, I believe that no longer being a Democrat is the right thing to do, and that breaking up with the Democratic Party feels right because I believe I can have a greater impact that way, Yang wrote. Reading his blog post, it is honestly a confession to Democrats that he still loves the party, but is tired of the infighting. So he's leaving because he's ready to continue helping Democrats from the outside. There are just 4 weeks remaining until Virginians head to the polls. Virginia has become a blue state over the past decade, and it's been a long time since Republicans won a statewide election. But the election in Virginia remains a battleground, and the race between former Democrat Governor Terry McAuliffe and Republican Glenn Youngkin, a first-time candidate and the former CEO of a large private equity firm, is seen as a key indicator ahead of next year's midterm elections. The race has garnered national attention. McAuliffe holds a 4-point advantage of 48% to 44% over Youngkin, with 9% of Virginia voters undecided or backing someone else, according to a Fox News poll conducted from September 26th to the 29th. This benchmark survey of the Virginia governor's race shows it is still up for grabs. The poll's release highlighted that 4 percentage point edge is within the survey's margin of sampling error, and both candidates are both 50% support. There's a long-running trend of Virginia voters defeating the party that controls the White House. McAuliffe temporarily broke that tradition in 2013 when he became the governor. He didn't run for re-election in 2017, as Virginia governors are barred from serving 2 straight terms. The prospect of losing the governorship in a state that now President Biden won by 10 points in last November's election has Democrats nervous. With so much on the line, the Democratic National Committee, DNC, is taking nothing for granted, making a $5 million investment in the race. It's the most the DNC spent in Virginia, and a huge sum, thanks to improved fundraising. Coronavirus vaccine mandates, abortion access, and even critical race theory have become flashpoints in the race between McAuliffe and Youngkin. Former President Trump, who remains unpopular in Virginia, as well as Biden's flagging approval ratings and the White House and congressional Democrats' inability to agree on the party's massive social spending and climate change agenda, are also key factors in a race with national implications. The Virginia contest may be the first statewide test of life without Trump on the ballot. Democrat pollster Chris Anderson said, "As an off-year election in a sometimes purple state, the Virginia gubernatorial is often seen as an early indicator of where voters are heading." And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Now don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.